Blew everybody's ears out with that one.
Danny,
Maybe
everybody
just
likes
enough to
it.
get you guys going.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's the Danny Kadota Show here on Friedman Adventures. There's a lot of great stuff going on, including questions coming in already. We've already got 4 likes. Danny, Bluefin Tuna on the Polaris Supreme was excellent last night. The Pacific Queen had limits of Bluefin Tuna, and there's quite a bit of this 180 pound, like 80 to 180
That's
pound.
nice
Is that
fish.
Bluefin going anywhere?
That's not going anywhere, Phil. They're not. They haven't gone for I don't know how many years now. There's no need for them. The biomass of feed, whether it's the Danes or it's the squid, there's no reason in the world, and that's why they'll fatten up here. They're not. There's no reason for them to cross the Pacific. I mean those days. I mean they have to. If the bait supply mandates that they have to get out of there, search and find new areas, but there's an ample supply of feed. And let me tell you, if they're going to eat squirts, they'll take that candy any day of the week.
It seems like it, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You want to start out with a question right away, and
Yeah,
then
let's
we'll
do
work
it.
into
Let's hit
the
it.
show. There's
Yeah,
all kinds of
it's
great
all
stuff.
lining up. So
So Tim
stack it
W
up.
says, Danny, he loves the show. First of all, thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate that. He wants to know if we're talking about albacore. We're
Yeah.
talking about fishing the slide. So maybe you could tell what is the slide first of all. Let's start right there,
Okay.
because we're starting to enter into something that you and I are
I
very
have a
familiar with, but a
funny
lot of
feeling. I
people
think
are
we can
not.
do it.
Albacore
The
fishing.
slide is it's like upon hearing hookup when one of the jig lines goes off. Or nowadays, I mean, in the recent years, a lot of times before we get jig bit, I'm seeing the fish on the sonar. So I tell the guys already at that point, so start putting bait. So the bait's going to go. Keep this in mind too. Even on your slide, you want to throw it in on the downwind corner. Okay, downwind. So
What does that mean? Downwind.
okay, so let's say the wind is coming. You want to have the wind in your face.
Right.
So the downwind corner would be over here. Okay, if you're looking at the wind and the wind's coming here, the downwind corner would be right on this corner.
Gotcha.
Okay, you don't want to throw into the wind. Okay, so you're throwing down with the wind, and be cognizant of this too. Every boat has a different slide. You know, the Drake crafts, like my boat, they go into a beautiful slide because they walk forward. They slide. It's a natural slide. When you have a Ditmar Donaldson or you have a boat with a kill, some of them, and the big boats, the long range boats, they will actually, you have your slide, but as you're drifting, they will back up backwards. I mean, they all have different drift rates. And so the opportune areas on those boats depend on the style of the boat, the make, the manufacturer of the boat, and a lot of people. I mean, it's a pretty interesting, and it gets pretty involved. But if you do your homework, it'll pay off.
So when they yell hookup, is it best to go in the water immediately? To
Well,
wait a little while? Because I think Tim is concerned about getting tangled up, and how do I stay out of
I would
tangles?
be
He's
too.
asking.
You're going to get guys that they're going to have iron and stuff rigged so they could fire it in right away. In the old days, we used to have guys with a chrome sinker, and they'd hang a nose hook bait, and it could be dead, and then they're not that touchy a fish, particularly albacore, that eating a dead bait was not an unusual deal, especially if you had a shiny chrome sinker 3 feet, 2.5, 3 feet above it.
Used to do that all the time.
The problem is now your bait is way back there. So there's two different schools of thought. You can get bit out there, and your fish is going to be out there. It's also going to keep a segment of that school on the outside behind you. Now we're going to be bringing them to the boat with the chum, but the ideal deal is to have them on the spot right on the corner. So, if you wait till the boat stops, if they're hanging them out there, your deckhand on the tank is going to be putting it right on the spot, getting those fish closer to the corner. Downwind corner, he's going to be putting that bait on there. At albacores, it's ones. We're not throwing scoops. Throwing ones unless you see an unbelievable amount of volume where you can sustain a scoop. Usually, typical even when we commercial fish, we're throwing steady ones on the corner, downwind corner. So that's where you want to cast.
Is the deckhand in essence training the fish in a way? Is he
Well, he's
keeping
bringing
them right
in.
there?
Yeah, and like I said, every boat has a different idiosyncrasy on how it drifts.
Yeah.
So most of them, particularly like the Drake crafts, you may want to do your homework, find out what boat it is, and you call me back, and I'll tell you which way the drift rate is. because some of them back up. The long range boats have a different float where in reality, a lot of times the baits will, you throw the bait on the corner and the bait will go up the keel of the boat, and sometimes the bow is one of the best places to fish, particularly once you're in a drift a while.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of having to understand individual boats' idiosyncrasies. They all have different drift rates, and it depends on the manufacturer. I don't want to make it more complicated, but it's true. You know, so having that understanding has a lot to do how you get bit too. You know,
Do you go in the water immediately, or do you take your time, or what?
I will wait. I'll let the mayhem go first.
And let
You
everybody get
know,
tangled
let
up?
it get tangled up or whatever. And you know, because if those fish come to the corner, you're not having to wind in an extra 50 yards of line. You know, you're right there, and you put the screws to them. You know, and as a captain and as crew members, we want the fish staying tighter to the boat anyway. Because even if you lose one, and if it's tight to the boat, you're not going to lose the school. So if they branch out and you start popping one off here and there, it'll take a segment of the school with it, you know. But if you can keep them on the corner, if you can keep them tight, even if one pops off your hook, he's still right there and amongst all the others. It's not going to, you know, take away from the frenzy on the corner. You know, it's going to help build it. You know, but if you're way out and you start losing them and they branch off with other fish and they take off with other fish, you slowly dwindle that school off. So that's one of the schools of thought. But like I said, every boat has a different idiosyncrasy on how it drifts. And having that understanding, you might want to talk to the crew and the skipper if you're not familiar with it. Which way does the boat drift? Because like with me when I fish on like the American Angler, the downwind corner is not the spot to cast because we throw it on downwind corner. By the time it drifts across the stern, it's probably right on the stern, even though you cast out. So, to me, on that particular boat, if you're casting straight out from the center of the stern, then that bait will come across the upwind corner, you know, and it'll get out there in the chum area a little bit better. So it just depends, but it's knowing each individual boat is different. Ask the crew, ask the captain, and that'll determine where you want to make your cast. It'll help your odds, trust me.
All right, great to have you all with us here on the Danny Kadota Show. Make sure you hit that like button. And in case you're tuning in and thinking somebody caught a bunch of albacore and that's why we're talking about albacore, we're just answering a question here. But we might as well
We're wishing.
we might as well ask you, Danny, get you on the record. What you feeling about albacore in San Diego, northern Baja, around here?
I think we're going to see them this year, Phil. This cooler weather, you know, I'm just looking at Mother Nature. And it cycles. That we're seeing chovies in the receivers. And I got to tell you, in a lot of those very good years, we didn't have a lot of anchovies. One of the best ones was right after El Nino in '83, came off that hot water. There weren't a lot of anchovies. And I was lucky enough I had just moved the boat. We had H&M, but I had the lease on Islandia. And so I pulled the Mustang and the Fortune over at Islandia. The Cherokee, my brother and those guys stayed at H&M. But from what I remember was Point Loma, Fisherman's, and H&M were on rations on chovies that year in '84
Yeah.
and '85, you know. And I was the Fortune and I were the only overnight boats in Mission Bay. Seaforth had, at that time, it didn't have the fleet that they had. They had mainly all half-day and three-quarter-day boats. They didn't
Right.
have overnight boats.
Right, I remember
so that
that.
meant that I think it was either Steve Tanakia or Billy Stevens or Gigi when they were running the Fortune for us. We were tanking up 100 scoops a night on the Mustang and the Fortune. That's why I built the big bait tanks, and we got outside Point Loma, and we'd meet up somewhere out in the grounds, and I'd transfer bait to my brother, and then the Fortune would do that too. But yeah, so that's kind of a good feeling too, because we do have chovies, not in great abundance. But here's another thing that a lot of people don't understand. When you're feeding bluefin, you're feeding yellowfin, we're throwing scoops oftentimes, right? Putting the bait on them pretty heavy. Albacore, whether you're commercial fishing or whether you're fishing sport fishing, we're throwing singles on the corner, and you're able to hold tonnage on the corner by throwing singles. You know, it could be fast singles, like, and just keeping there on the spot. but we're not throwing scoops. So you don't go to the bait that you need to get the numbers with albacore, by throwing scoops. It's singles will hold tonnage under the boat.
And Danny, this is great information for private boaters.
Oh, private
because
boats,
they can't
absolutely.
carry that much bait.
That's right,
And
right.
it
You
sounds
don't-
like they don't have to.
You don't have to throw the bait heavy with albacore.
In fact, it's a mistake to do so.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. So that's why, even when we commercial fished, it was the same thing. You'd hit the corner, but if somebody pulled a fish out with the lift pole, a bait pole here, then we'd fill one in at that spot, then put one on the corner. Then somebody pull one on the lift pole over on this side. I'd put one to fill it in on the hole, and then one back on the corner. So it's a different methodology in keeping the fish around the boat with albacore. And having that shortage of anchovies, but still having them, makes me kind of feel a lot like 1984 and 85.
Yeah. I have to agree with you. Danny, there are so many questions coming in here.
Bring it on, boys.
It's really crazy,
I'm ready. I'm pumped
man.
up. Coffee. I'm ready to go, man.
Tim Marquez, who's just a fantastic guy. By the way, the guys on the Endeavor are out at the Channel Islands fishing on a 2-day trip. Joe Martinez is out there. They're watching the show
Oh,
as
cool.
they're out there right
I hope
now.
they're killing them, boys.
Yeah.
Get them. Get them. It's
Tim,
going to happen.
Tim Marquez, great guy. Just got back from Laredo. I've made this point a few times, but it's worth repeating. He came down when we were separating clothing to go to Mexico and spent a good 4 hours with us. Great guy. He wants to know, can you go over how to select the best sardine, and I guess we could say anchovy, based on color alone? What are you looking for a particular color?
You talked about that. I was just looking at that today because I got friends down at Bay of LA right now, and Steve Itomi and we call him Professor Dave, Oshima, and that group. They're down there whacking the Cabrilla, Baqueta, the whole deal. When I was down there with them, we used Daiwa's. It's a sardine. It's kind of a green sardine color. Man, I killed them with that thing. It was unbelievable. It's so fun, throwing that thing. I was throwing my 9-foot rod with 30-pound fluoro, and I think it was a 60-pound, 66-pound braid. It was a new braid. I think that used area. It was a new line that I was trying out, but it threw beautiful. And but it was a Daiwa swim bait. What were they called? SK minnows. I think they're SK minnows.
Yeah.
But their sardine was beautiful.
Yes.
And it worked. I killed the Cabrilla with that thing. It was unbelievable.
So looking for the color, like a lot of guys.
Yeah, it's a
remember
greenish.
in the days,
It's a
like
light
blonde
greenish
anchovy.
Yeah. Well, this was kind of a light green back.
Yeah.
Some of them have markings, but that's.
Are you looking
That's
for
what I
a
want.
particular color when you go to the bait tank?
No, I just don't want a red nose. I don't want, I want a clean bait.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds us, it brings it back to that Freedom trip that we had, Phil.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's going to depend on where you're hooking the bait to, and that changes.
Yes.
And I learned something on that Freedom trip, and really we should all be compelled to learn something every time we fish. So that was something else too. I did a lot more back hooking on that trip than I've ever have. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Donnie G says, thank you guys for the updates. Semper Fi, brothers. So, obviously a Marine. Thank you for your service.
Love it.
Steve Bermudez, I have a dumb question. Well, naturally, Steve, you're asking the question. No, I'm kidding you, Steve. How to install the rock cod plate? How do you install a rock cod plate? The short right angle plate. You just screw it.
Yeah, it's just clamps.
Yeah.
Right? It's just clamps. Usually they have them with a vinyl dip on it so it doesn't...
rock cod plate? Who uses a rock cod plate anymore?
That's
Does
true.
anybody?
I mean, using that for a railrod?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Steve,
Yeah,
what are you
yeah,
doing?
yeah.
Huh? Are you drinking tonight, Steve? Calm down, will you? Dan Smith, hello, Danny, Phil, and all you great folks of the Friedman Adventures family. Dan, it is great to see you. Steve Bermudez is
Cool.
back into the tequila, and he's saying the short right angle plate facing down towards you or away from you.
You want
This is
the
getting
plate
more complicated. I don't even know
on
what
the
hell
inside
Yeah.
and not on the outside because as the rod slides overboard, you want that plate stopping it so it doesn't go over, so it locks in, on this side. So in other words, here's the rail. I want it on this side. Here's the rail. I want the plate on here, so it stops it from going forward.
And
right?
yeah, I mean, I guess we should address this because back in the day, rockeye plates were really common when you were fishing really, really, really deep.
Yep.
You had a plate on there.
Yeah.
You'd put it on the rail, and then you'd wind up from 100 fathoms, 600 feet deep.
That's right.
Hey,
That's right.
speaking of that, I was down at Island Fishing Tackle yesterday, and a commercial guy who was fishing 1,800 feet brought in a couple of fish. You can see that short. But have you ever heard, I bet you've heard of the one, I don't know if you've heard of the other one. Have you ever heard of an arrow tooth flounder?
I saw the pictures.
Yeah.
I've never seen them before.
I've never
live.
seen that fish before.
I've never seen them live.
Okay, so you saw the
Till I saw
blackgill?
yeah.
The blackgill, have
Oh,
you seen those
blackgill, they
before?
get- yeah,
You've
they
seen
commercially
those.
get those
Yeah,
things.
right.
Yeah.
Right, but that flounder, man,
Yes.
those teeth on that thing were
Oh,
really
unbelievable.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
it's
great.
amazing.
All right, Steve. And Steve says, Danny, thanks for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. Steve,
That's
Danny?
what it's all about.
absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
Yellowtail 69 Wasabi, you just drop. Okay. Dan Smith, Danny, if you and Phil end up fishing Albacore together this year, what do you mean if, Dan? Make sure he puts that camera down and keeps those jigs clean. Great to see you guys this evening. Hey, I'll tell you what, honestly, I will have to catch an albacore.
Oh,
At
yeah,
some point, I got to put
yeah.
the camera down.
Well, you know, and,
I would have to do that.
let's go back to the slide deal because
Yeah.
I want to
Go
reiterate
ahead.
that too. So the thing is, if those fish, you can tell right away. You know, you get jig bit. If they're putting ones on the corner, okay, and you start seeing boils coming up the line, you don't want to cast further out. Those fish are going to come right to the corner. So, you know, why wind all that in? They're going to get a head of steam going the other way. You know, and those fish, if they're following it up the line, and usually I used to tell my kids, once the boat stops, you can put a short scoop on them or so. And if we see the volume, feed them a little bit more. You know, but ideally, that's where you want to hook them right there. The closer to the boat, you'll have more control over it. While everybody's outside of you, and there could be mayhem because if everybody lets in early, their lines are all out there. Well, those loose lines are going to get wrapped. They could get tangled. You know, staying away from that jungle, waiting for the fish to get to the boat, you're going to be closer to the fish. You know, you're going to have less to wind in. You know, there's a huge advantage in waiting just a little bit. But watch, you have to read the water. I call it reading the water. And you should be cognizant of that every time you go out fishing, whether it's albacore, bluefin, or anything. Watch, keep your eyes open, you know, and you'll see patterns. Like I said, on bigger boats, the drift is generally the opposite. So a lot of times what happens once you're in the stop, one of the best places to go. And the guys that fish with me on the American Angler know that after a little bit, I'll run to the bow with a bait and fire it out. And those fish are shooting out from under and usually you throw it just downwind a little bit. By the time it gets straight about the anchor is about the time you get nailed, you know. So keep that in mind. Try those different things. And that's, like I said, on a larger vessel and depending on the manufacturer of the boat. They all have different drift rates. You can talk to some of the crew guys, you know, and they could probably tell you, you know, whether it's a Ditmar, whether it's a metal boat, you know, they all have different idiosyncrasies on how they drift. But when you figure that out, that's going to be the biggest key to albacore fishing is knowing where to throw, you know, initially.
All right, great stuff, Danny. And don't forget to hit that like button. We are coming to you from the Friedman Adventures studios here at beautiful 22nd Street Landing in San Pedro, California, where they have a whole fleet of great boats waiting for you. The Apollo, the Freedom, the Amigo, the Native Son, and that's just to name a few. The El Patron is here now. Also, the half-day boat Monte Carlo. You should come down to 22nd Street Landing and enjoy it. 310-832-8304. Turbo T2 is so happy that we're live streaming tonight, Danny. He's really stoked that we're back again.
Oh, it's cool.
Last week, what happened? I was on the Endeavor.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
I was on the Endeavor,
That's
so
right.
I'm back. Yellowtail 69 Wasabi, no lead. Just drop, no strike.
Oh, no lead.
No lead. Fly line. Oh, no lead.
Yeah. You
No
want
lead.
lower collar.
So he's talking about fishing for albacore. Do you like the fly line when you fish albie? Yeah.
You know, and really, folks, here's another thing too. That's a lost art, you know. So getting your fly line down, and typically albacore, we're fishing a little lighter lines. I mean, unless they really come and chew the corner. I mean, you don't even, we getting bit on 40 a lot of times was, man, they were wide open,
Yeah, yeah.
But typically you're talking 20, 25, and it just depends. But, get your practicing in with your cast. Throw very light, practice with the light clothespin or whatever it might be. But yeah, you want a fly line. You want that thing going down away. Lower collar hook, maybe a butt hook, but I like lower collar for albacore fishing. Here's another one. I was just talking to Phil about this too. I fished with a group of guys, Steve Utomi and Dave Oshima, and we used to call him the professor. And now Dave Oshima literally weighed hooks. How many people do that?
That is crazy.
Okay, so there was a time when I represented Spro and Gamakatsu hooks, and I also had good friends like Steve. Oh, why am I drawing the blank?
Because we're old, that's why.
Yeah, Steve. It'll come to me. He ran
Yes.
Mustad. He was general sales manager for Mustad. Why am I drawing a blank? This is ridiculous. Anyway,
So Steve, we
but
know Steve.
here's the deal. For fishing albacore, we weighed out a number 4. Excuse me, it was a number 2 fly lined hook with a ring, a gamakatsu light ring, and it weighed. How many guys weigh your hooks? 350 milligrams with the ring. Now for albacore, there is no better hook. Now, you and I can't feel the difference between that 350 milligrams with a ring with this light gamakatsu, but an anchovy can feel it. A straight number 4, same, a straight number 2 mustad was 450 milligrams, 100 milligrams. Nothing to us. We can't feel it, but that chovy sure can. And so I would get bit instantly, and that hook was a killer. Unfortunately, I used that hook on the first cast of that bluefin trip with all the boys on the Freedom, and they
Yeah, right.
not expecting to have that size fish and straightened it out. But on albacore, I think I've got fish up to 40 pounds on that light gamakatsu hook with the rings. But how many people around this country have weighed those hooks out and quantified it like
That's
that?
crazy.
So when you're fishing albacore, all these little secrets and things like that, they make a huge difference. Huge difference. Not so much to us, but to that chovy. And he takes out and goes down and away, and virtually you're nailed all the time, And I think we were doing that even before we used fluorocarbon. So that implemented with fluorocarbon, you're going to kill them.
Yellowtail 69 Wasabi, great stuff. Thanks for sharing. Really, really appreciate it. When I used to fish the Pegasus, Joe Chait had a freaking garden hose, and he would have somebody spraying the water.
Diffuse the.
Yeah, I mean, I think it made the fish feel like fish are boiling.
Yeah, we did that when we were commercial fishing.
Did
We always have a
that
hose on
work?
it.
Does that
yeah,
work?
the commercial guys did that too.
Yeah.
It just diffuses. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
But
crazy.
when they're eating, well, we had that going when we were lift pulling.
Right.
It just confuses them more. And then all the commotion.
Yes.
Like you'd put your bait down in the water, you lay it, and we just pop the water with our lift poles.
Right.
And then before you can get it up, usually it was
You're big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
so there's different things.
Couple of those trips we were fishing 80-pound with a hook. I don't even have any. It was like a 10-0. And you just put a small anchovy on. This is when it goes insane.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And then the goal was, of course, the fish gets no line on you.
Exactly.
And you got to keep their head, because if they get their head on you, you're screwed.
Exactly.
But yeah, those were fun times, no question about it. All right, Naughty Boy 78. Great to see you here again. Do you guys ever spool your own reels? How much resistance do you put on the line while spooling? Any tips for not putting it too tight or too loose? That's a great question.
Okay, so here's what I do. I go to my tackle shops. I used to have a line winding machine, and I gave it away. And the reason why I gave it away was at Berkeley. And I used it for all those years we had monofilament. And I repped Suffix lines, which, built all the line. It's just a great line company. It's a big line company.
Yeah.
And anyway, once I quit using the bulk mono that we had, I still have all these spools. Once we started going to Spectra, thanks to my Sea Daddy Russ Iser folks, that machine was not capable of putting the pressure that you need to put the backing, Spectra backing on there. So I take my reels, even myself now to this day, to the tackle shops to have the spectra put on. Once that spectra is put on, then I could just the top shots of mono. I do that. I could do that myself. You could do it by hand on a just have a dowel and put it out there and hold it on there. I don't need the line winding machine that I used to use. But, back when I was bass fishing and all that, I would change my line every night. But the bass reels are small.
Yeah.
Didn't take much. But now once my spectra is on there and it's packed on with a machine under a lot of pressure, then top shotting with mono is a piece of cake. So you just splice it in and just top shot it, and you're good. And you could feel it, and I feel it all the way to the top, because what happens is once the mono, you get your first fish and starts to compress, it'll sink down. It'll sink down. It won't
Yeah.
sit at that level, and it'll be just perfect. Yeah.
But best to start with the tackle shop doing it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'd have the tackle shop definitely pack all your spectra for sure, because they put it under. They have the pressure that they can put it under, and you want it on there tight.
Turbo T2 says you can't put braid on too tight. Put as much tension as you can and lay it on slow and even.
That's
Does
right.
that sound right to
And
you?
that's why I have it done at the shop.
Yeah. All right. Very good.
Yep.
Dan Smith. Danny, I remember that well. I was working on a super seiner in the 1980s, and my father was a commercial fishing albacore, and there was a ton of pinheads that year, and good anchovy was hard to get. Yeah, those small pinheads, and you got to fish with them, right?
Yeah, you have to fish with them.
Man,
But
I tell
they'll
you,
work.
that's not an easy task. By the way, just to mention to everybody out there, I mentioned it to you. I was talking to the Pegasus at 3 o'clock this morning because I have no life, and and he was telling me, he was joking with me, saying Jacob on the Pegasus said, "Hey Phil, I don't even believe albacore exists anymore." But when we went to the receivers, it was full straight chovy. That's a good omen, isn't it?
You know what? I'm telling you, Mother Nature, I wish I had that crystal ball, but I'm betting on Albies this year just because of the cooler weather we've had. Very different, a lot of rain. There's a lot of different things, but I'm banking on that. I think we're going to have, it's going to be pretty much ideal. You go out and go fish your Albies during the day, and if you got a 2 day and a half or whatever, you go fish the Bluefin at night, and bingo, you're good.
All right, hit that like button, everybody. We appreciate it. Lots of people coming on to watch you, Danny. We appreciate all of you so very much. I'll remind you all that this Sunday, kids fish free on the old Matt Walsh, which is now the California, out of Ventura Harbor Sport Fishing. And let me tell you, they're going to have gorgeous weather on Sunday. There's going to be no wind. They should catch some rockfish. An 8-year-old kid on there had a 36-pound yellowtail the other day. That was actually on the Island Spirit. But the Matt Walsh will be running, and kids 12 and under fish free with a paid adult. 805-676-3474. Jeff Yeomans from the 540 Slingers Club. Jeff, great to see you. Danny says good evening to you. Daniel says Albacore with a thumbs up.
There we go.
And Steve Bermudez, who was asking the rock cod plate question, says mas tequila, please, senorita. See, I told you he was into the booze tonight. I could just tell by those crazy questions. Rick Slater, thank you guys. They used to sell arrow tooth as turbot in the 1970s. I always pick the live bait, but I can't catch green, not blue. So yeah, he's familiar with those. And
Oh, yeah.
the liveliest bait is the one you want to pick, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, usually, if you can get a greenie, it's good.
Hey.
No red noses if you can help it.
Danny, could you address how it is you pick your bait up? Some guys lunge and grab it, and all the scales come off? How do you do it?
You put your hand down very slowly in the bait well, folks, and you look and see what you want. You want a greenie. You want a greenie. You want it clean, and you don't. I watch guys do this
Yes,
all day. I go,
yes.
no, you're going to scale the fish. You're going to kill the bait, whatever. But you just go and you cradle it, come up slow, angle it toward the bait, towards you on the bait wheel, cradle it, and then you have it like that, and have your hook ready to go, whether it's lower collar, nose, on the slide. A lot of guys like the nose. I'm telling you, I prefer the lower collar hook that thing, 99% of the time my bait will go down. If it goes down and away, it's gone, folks. You know,
It's going to get a bite.
it's going to get nailed.
Yeah.
So wait till the boat stops, especially if you're seeing the boils coming to the boat and they're coming from outside, coming in, then it's the crew's, you know, it's their responsibility to get them on the corner. When you get them on the corner, you want that bait just to go down and away. And, you know, the lower collar, to me, it's always the best. You know, if you are going to be one of those guys that go in and slide, then you nose hook it. Because as it's dragging, then it's going to come back to the boat like that. It's not going to be, you don't want a lower collar if it's, you know, on the slide unless you're feeding it a lot of line. Because what's happening is then it's pulling against it and you got line drag. So you don't want that. It's not going to be natural.
And when you're fishing a sinker, do you always nose hook when you're fishing a sinker?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Let's
I
say you're
would.
fishing
I
like
would if
yeah.
I were gonna do it on a slide. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know who was a big guy on doing that was Pat Conklin. He loved to fish. He would
Yeah.
fish a 6-ounce torpedo sinker
Yeah.
with
Get it-
40
get it
pound
down and away, yeah.
and drop it.
Yeah,
He was on the Searcher doing that one day, and I
Yeah.
go, well, what if they don't bite that? And he goes, then I don't catch them. That was his attitude. It was funny. Yeah, because we were all, you know, fly lining
Sure,
or doing
sure,
whatever,
sure,
and Pat was fishing
Sure.
it that way. That was funny
my
stuff.
God. Have fun
All
with-
right, great stuff. Naughty Boy 78. Oh man, he's leaving for a romantic dinner at the Elderwood in Visalia. He'll be thinking of us while he dines on fresh salmon.
Well, you know, you do have to remember you're talking to the guys on Sunday where they're gonna go. Sunday's Mother's Day.
That's right.
Hey, you gotta do your honeydews, boys, if you want to go fishing.
Yeah, don't screw
So,
that
yeah,
up.
yeah. Make sure that's taken care of.
Hey, bon appetit, naughty boy. Provecho. Have a great one. Steve Bermuda's Damn Drunks. Damn voice recognition software. Oh, that's what's going on. He's voicing it and it's getting all screwed up. Albert Ponce, who's another great friend of ours. Albert, I miss you and the kids and Crystal. He says, greeting fellas. Dan Smith. Danny, when the Albacore start getting in here, wow, he's thinking positive. You hear that?
There you go.
Will you have some of your new rods available? If so, what size and weight rod would you recommend?
I do. And the blanks have been available for a while. You know, it was the componentry. But, you know, we made a commitment and we're supposed to be getting, you know, a new manufacturer guides that we got coming in too. You know, we're going with Sea Guide and they look wonderful, but we just need to get a hold of guides. And that's been killing us the last couple of years, you know, with componentry. So, yes, we will. We do have the blanks. If you have access to getting the guides, you could do it with the blanks. These are straight graphite, so they're going to be they'll be perfect for Albacore. They're quicker as far as recoil. They'll cast further. The only thing with the straight graphites, folks, is you got to make sure that you learn how to fish. You know high sticking with them. If you're pulling from 90 degrees on down, you're going to put a fish on a lot quicker. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's an albacore or a big bluefin. You're going to put them on quicker. It's learning those right angles. And particularly with graphite, that recovery is so much quicker, but you have to take advantage of pulling at that lower angle because you're getting that much more pressure than you will with, say, a glass rod, because the glass rod, the recovery is so much slower. You got to remember, it's got to recover its own weight before it can do any lifting. So if you got a heavy blank, you're fighting your blank just as much as, you know, anything else, because if you got to lift the weight of that blank before you can get any lift on the rod. And if you have something that's light that recoils like this as opposed to like this, and if it's picking it up like that, and you're staying on it with your stroke, you know, you're going to get a fish. It's never going to get a chance to get his head down. And, you know, with albies, you put them on real quick.
Danny, I don't know if this is possible. I've been asked to keep the show to like an hour and a half tonight. But, man, we have so many questions coming in. That's a daunting task. Let me tell you, Dan.
It's always been a tough one.
Great question. By the way, the Apollo will be on board. The Apollo leaving September 7th out of C4 Sport Fishing and coming back on the 8th. If you'd like info or like to book one of the last few spots available on that, send me a text at 657-227-6459. So Brandon has a question, and Brandon, he is so excited about Albacore. He'd give us eye teeth if the Albies show up this year. So let's see what he has to say. Hey, Danny, you see that massive storm off Alaska right now? Oh, man, it's covering from Alaska all the way down to Washington. Albacore coming. Yeah. So I don't know if a storm in Alaska has. What do you think? Does that have any correlation to our albacore thing?
I'm looking a little closer than that. I think there's fish coming in from out west.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but it's like it's Mother Nature. We're gonna take whatever it gives us. Whether we're gonna go fish these albacore, whether we're gonna fish sea bass, yellowtail. Sea bass usually typical is very seasonal. It shuts off around summertime. But I think we're going to have a nice influx of yellows, and I think the bluefin will keep us busy. But I have a feeling we're going to see those
I,
ring guys. I want to see them. That brings people out of the woodwork, Phil.
well,
It
let's
really
throw.
does. They
Look,
they come they go nuts.
they do.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you and I will
we
be right up
need
there.
that. Yeah, exactly, and we need that for our industry.
Yes.
That nothing fires it up. It's just that you guys instead of fishing the 80 and 100 and 130s. You're going to have to learn how to recast the 20 and 25 pound outfit. 30, finesse has to do with the stroke, But yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great thing.
We'll throw a monkey wrench into this because Brad Phillips, who used to run the first string, contacted me. He's down in Baja now.
Yeah.
And Brad said, Phil, you're leaving something out of the whole equation here. You haven't considered the chlorophyll, and there's a lot of dirty water between those fish out to the west and us, and they do not like to move into dirty water. So he's right. I mean, you catch albacore in purple water, where you can see them 100 feet
Yeah,
down.
pretty
But
much.
I'm wondering, I don't know enough about this. I don't know if you do. Is that dirty water like an early spring phenomenon, and it cleans up as you go along,
I
or
don't
what? Or,
because we'd have to talk to the jig boats and the guys
Yeah.
that have been tracking these things from Hawaii and back
Yeah, right.
all these years. I don't know.
I don't
I don't
either.
know. I can't tell you on that.
Yeah,
I can't tell you on that. I'm just going by weather conditions, signs I'm seeing with the chove, you know. And here's the other thing: if that water's superficial, surface,
right. They
Stuff.
can submarine in, right?
albies typically they got their noses in it, but they're
Yeah.
way below the thermocline,
Yes.
folks.
Yes.
So they can bypass that. I mean, if need be.
That's what I was thinking, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to say. It's albacore. And that's what makes part of that mystique makes it even more. It gives it its value. So when they do get here, that's why people go so nuts about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
David Alcantar, good afternoon, fellas. I love sitting here having dinner and watching the show, man. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
David. We appreciate it. Jack Sepulveda, greeting Phil and Danny. Jack, you're the man. Haven't seen you for a while. Hope you're doing good. Turbo T2 says, I'm rooting for Albacore just so Phil can be vindicated since he's made 200 videos prophesizing their return. Hey, Turbo T2, I'm going to take issue with you right now, okay? That is not true. I've only made 199 videos, okay?
The nerve.
I'm getting carried away here, man. What are you trying to do? Exaggerate this whole thing? Steve Bermudez, why is it that you can slam a squid on the deck and catch the biggest fish of the day, but yet you have to have a perfect anchovy to catch a tuna?
You're lucky that it's an albacore, because the toughest tuna to catch with a chovy is a bluefin.
Yeah.
And
12
in
pound
the old
test,
days, exactly.
8
In
hook.
the old days, catching a bluefin separated the men from the boys.
Yeah,
as far
oh,
as
yeah.
fishermen. And it took the lighter line, took the smaller hooks, it took everything perfect. Your knots had to be just right, good drags. It took 100% of focus on your tackle, on your technique, on everything. To me, that tough fly line chovy bite, that was the epitome of narrowing down your crowd on the boat. You could tell who the real sticks were and the ones that were, as guys you had the guy that wanted to put the split shot on. But if you get that chovy to swim down on its own, like I was telling you with the lower collar hook, nothing beats that. So it separated out the guys, particularly on bluefin. Not so much on albacore, but on bluefin for sure.
Who was one of your first mentors teaching you how to fish for bluefin? Do you remember?
Oh, I had a lot of great mentors.
Yeah, me too.
I had a lot of great mentors, but
One of
you know,
mine
some.
was a guy by the name of Yo. Because he'd come out on the searcher every Monday,
Yep.
and I was pinhead
Yep.
slash deckhand.
Yep.
And man, he was an awesome bluefin tuna fisherman.
He used to charter my boat. He used to
Yeah.
charter the Mustang. You could make a cast, and that head of the chovy would hit the water. It'd be angled down and would just take off. And all of a sudden, you just watch the spool go spin in gear. But yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah. And then,
But
of
a
course,
lot of great fishermen. Yeah.
I grew up in the Bay, so we
Yeah.
used to catch them up in the Santa Monica Bay
Oh yeah.
regularly.
Yeah.
But it was always that, fishing 12-pound test, number 8 hook.
Well, and Phil, that's why, I credit our Southern California anglers in general, particularly all our South Bay shops and San Diego. But I mean, we had great shops all over. But in Southern California, we drove that part of the fishing market. The rest of the country, the rest of the world didn't understand fly line fishing. They had no clue.
Right.
They had no clue. I mean, even Penn Reels had no clue. They gave us a plastic spool. You could fly line a chovy, but the minute you hooked the fish, it imploded. Even if we had it backed with string to cushion it. And I told that story before, and I'll tell you again because I was, as a kid, I was kind of just. They blew me off because I asked the question, why can't you make a spool that won't implode? We used to get plastic spools, fellas, with all our Penn reels, and then we got a metal spool. The metal spool was too heavy to cast unless you had a 1 pound sinker on it, And then you had a plastic spool. Yeah, you could fly line a chovy, but the minute you hooked an albie or bluefin, the pressure would cause the spool to spread and just pop. So lo and behold, Penn had no answer. Their answer to me when I was young was, we sell every reel we make. We're not changing our tooling for you guys in Southern Cal. Well, guess what, Penn? I got news for you. Our guys in Southern California are way smarter than that. Along comes Carl Newell, does his, implements aluminum. Then we had a nucleus of engineers and hardcore fishermen that got a hold of CNC machines and built sight plates. And lo and behold, we started getting custom reels, And then Carl Newell, built his own reels too. But I mean, there's a lot of, innovation that came out of here, not anywhere else. Came out of Southern Cal, and we dealt with all those guys going through that. And I can recall the big, reels over the years that made the impact on this industry, and that was certainly one of them. That was the biggest I felt. It was the Newell spool and retrofitting all the Penn side plates and then gravitating and going into CNC, and then lo and behold, now we have, machined reels that are light, aluminum, and strong.
Absolutely.
Cast, so.
Good stuff.
Come a long way, baby.
A little weather update. It's going to be breezy still for another day, but and there's going to be a little blow up in some areas out to the west where some of that bluefin is. It's going to get a little windy on Saturday afternoon. Then we go into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the wind is out of the picture. And I think we're going to see sea bass. I think we're going to see bluefin. Of course, I thought we'd see albacore the last 2 years, so don't bet on me too much. Hopefully all this wind getting out of the picture is going to really help. All right, Brandon's back. He says, I have family who haven't fished since the 90s, Danny. They're willing to come out here and fly here for albacore. Everybody loves albacore. He says at least his family does.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
The people come out of the woodwork, and that's no joke. He will. Yeah.
Anthony Amalfitano. Anthony, it was so much fun fishing with you on the Endeavor. Man, that was awesome. And I think we just had 2 openings on the Apollo, by the way. You were asking me about that on our May 31st, just to let you know that in case you can send me a text if you're interested. But that was so much fun with you out there. Next time we're going to get the sea bass. All right, Anthony says, super happy the show is on. Great to be sitting down with the family. They all love you. Vincente and Sophia, they say hello. We say hello to them,
Right.
His great kids. And it's really great to see you here, Anthony. Dan Smith, Phil Friedman, the great albacore prophet. This works, yeah. Were the prophets in the
Yeah, keep
Bible,
our fingers crossed,
were they
guys.
wrong like me all the time? I don't think so. They were right all the time.
People, everything cycles. Mother Nature just cycles. We take, as fishermen, you take what you're given, and we make it work. We'll make it work. But I have a good feeling.
All right, our tequila tester, Steve Bermuda, says if the albacore are coming, shouldn't the salmon be coming to Southern California? That water's cold enough where there might be a couple
that's
salmon
happened
around.
frequent enough.
Yeah.
And I can remember '95 was the best ever. There was over 100,000 caught between Ventura and Santa Barbara.
95,
And
yeah.
we went up every single week. In fact, Steve, you told me, booked the Seabiscuit every week.
Oh, wow.
We went up every single week, and we had limits, usually within a couple hours. It was crazy.
Is that king salmon or silver
King salmon.
Yeah.
King salmon. And it got so bad, Bill Varney was running the Seabiscuit, or the old Patrician.
Yeah.
And he just chartered it every single, I think it was Tuesday. And I remember taking my dad out, and we'd go out there. And it got so easy that we started doing a 6-pound side bet. So we take our little bass reels and stuff. And the biggest one I got that year was like 18 pounds. But I mean, a lot of like 12 to 18-pound fish. It was just beautiful fish. And they're delicious. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
They were unbelievable. But we were taking our little bass reels. And Bill was getting a little upset because we were goofing around with bass freshwater gear. But we took a big spool of maximum 5-pound, and everybody had to spool off the same spool of line, this 5-pound. And we had a $20 side bet. Who can get the biggest fish with this 5-pound line? And that was a blast,
Yeah, yeah.
Now, naturally, if we hooked them on heavier line, we would have been home in about an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
With limits.
Yeah.
But we were doing that. But it was fun. It was fun. I remember having a blast, but we never went home without a limit that whole summer. It was crazy.
Danny, maybe you could talk about, if you're familiar with, there was actually a commercial fishery out of Newport at one time for salmon.
Oh, I caught a fish right at the entry.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That water was cold, and, in a cold water year like this one.
Yeah, I can remember I was in La Palma, my dad's house, pull open the times where they used to have fish counts every morning. And I look and I'm going, salmon. I'm looking at the numbers of salmon. I go, holy smokes.
What's going on?
It's first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So I make a call down to Newport, and I said, hey, I want to book the afternoon run. So, I grabbed a 12, 15-pound line, shot down there, get on the boat. I don't know, it was the freelance. I think it was a half day. We just get outside, make a quick right outside the harbor, and right in the canyon there. And I got my first local salmon. Then I went back the next morning too and got another one. But yeah, you just never know.
Right.
But you have to be willing to drop everything and go. When it's on, it's on.
Absolutely.
But it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah, for
Tremendous,
sure.
yeah.
PNS Harnack says, do you think if the albacore do come this year, I should dust off the old Penn Jig Master? Think it'd be better to start catching them? Hey, they worked before. It'd be nostalgic.
They worked before, and here's the deal. I mean, yeah,
Be honest. You like
the drag systems and everything. They're kind of antiquated. I mean, yeah, I was using those 50 years ago, and they were great then. But nowadays you have smaller reels that will cast farther and have more drag. They're just more comfortable to fish, more efficient. I would invest in a smaller, strong. Yeah, they got a heavier drag. The drags are much bigger than what you have off an old jig master. I would upgrade it. You'll be able to cast further. That's another thing. That's going to be a key thing too, as far as getting bit. So for that alone, it's got a better drag. The upgrades, the gearings, everything's been advanced so much more than it has been, for instance, the jig master days.
All right, excellent question. Yeah, I know it's a nostalgic kind of thing, and I get it, but I guess you're going to move on with the times, right? Just keep up with everybody else. Naughty Boy 78. Hey, lovely comment here, by the way. Rest in peace, Joe. Your legend and spirit lives on, brother. Your rods are still out there fighting. I know, because I use them 40 years later. That's a lovely comment.
Oh yeah. No, Yo and Ruthie. They were unbelievable people. And like I said, they chartered the Mustang, so they were very close to those guys. And Yo, when I was living in Gardena, I was only a few blocks away, so I was in there all the time, torturing those guys.
Turbo T2, Danny, could you please explain why you collar hook versus nose hook for fly line or bait?
The lower collar will get that bait to swim down and away. And if it goes down and away, it's going to get hammered. Nose hook, the nose hook is great if you're going in on a slide or something, but that all I can tell you is, for me, it was almost instant with the lower collar. If they're chewing, if I get my bait to go down and away, it's gone.
So another way to get your bait to go down and away is butt hooking. Do you like that too, or do you like the collar
I do
better?
that. I'll do the butt. I like the lower collar on a chovy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but butt hook works sometimes.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But for me, just it's
works
where I
better
grew up,
for
and
you.
I just it's
Yeah, got it. All right.
just
The corpse is back. Brandon, hey Danny, do you remember a year when we got salmon in Southern California? Or is that all north of us? We just talked about that, Brandon.
No,
Where
that's
were
what
you?
it was.
Yeah, Newport Beach, baby. You
Newport
probably,
Beach, but and that bite in 1995 between Ventura and Santa Barbara was phenomenal. I
Yeah.
think there was over 100,000 salmon caught.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm seeing something about Seabiscuit. We were fishing with
Oh, there you go.
we
Yeah.
were fishing with Varney on the Seabiscuit
Yeah. Well,
every week.
you know what's crazy? This is a stupid, I don't know why this pops into my head. I went salmon fishing. I was a really young kid.
Yeah.
And there was this big guy on the boat, and I honestly didn't know him. And I was just sound asleep down in the bunk room, and he comes in there and wakes me up. He was not an older guy, but like in his 20s, and I was in my teens, and he's yelling, "Fire, fire." And I jump up, and he goes, "I'm just screwing it." He scared the hell out of me. I actually thought it was funny, and it was during a salmon thing. And then there was another time we went down there. I can't remember the boat, but they were trying to start the engine. We went down to sleep because you're leaving at 4 a.m, whatever it is. So you're driving since 2, and you just heard like them trying to crank the engine on.
Uh-huh.
And I got to the point where I thought, oh, we're at sea, and that's like some pump or something. And then finally you hear this, oh, and I come out and they go, we can't get it started. We're canceling the trip. So, oh my God, that was funny. Some of those salmon trips. All right, Turbo T2. You're right. Let's see. He says, I grew up fishing on the Seabiscuit out of Cisco's. Great memories catching calicos at the Channel Islands. Calico bass fishing is good up there.
And that was with Varney? Okay. Were you around in 95? Because we were on the Seabiscuit I think it was every Tuesday.
Turbo
During
T2,
that-
there's a question
and
for
we,
you.
We never missed on the salmon.
Did you ever have good calico bass fishing up in the Channel Islands?
No, we got our salmon and went home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but I fished up there too for that. Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah. But, like I said, but that was such a special year.
Oh,
for
yeah.
salmon. I mean, how many times can you guarantee a limited salmon every time you go up? I mean, it was, and like I said, it got so good, we were goofing around with the 5-pound lines and a side bet on it, with a special side bet jackpot, so it was fun stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Daniel says he hopes the Albacore show up off Redondo and wants to come be on the show someday. Come on down, Daniel. We'd love to see you down here for sure. Rick Slater used to catch salmon on the Davies Locker rental skiffs out by the Bell Buoy. Absolutely, Rick. I remember those days.
Yeah.
That was fun stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, they had to send. I got a salmon in the canyon in Redondo.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I caught a silver salmon. I didn't even know what the hell it was.
Yeah, I didn't either. You look at the mouth, black kings with their black markings.
Yeah, I just know my parents were like really thrilled when I came home with a salmon.
Oh, heck yeah.
Because they weren't expecting me to do that.
That's right.
Maybe a bonita or
Prime
something.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the thing about kids and fishing. I remember, man, I didn't want anybody to fillet my fish because I wanted to go home and be the conqueror and show my parents this.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
We were like that
Yeah.
too. I have pictures of stuff laid out on the lawn, and I go, "God, what a dummy!"
I know, because I wasn't really good at filleting fish in those days.
Yeah.
So, but it was all about.
No, I get it.
Yeah, it was about the accomplishment. As a kid, you felt like it was an
Yeah,
accomplishment.
yeah.
It was good stuff. All right, Brandon's back. Hey, Danny and Phil, what's our limit for albacore this year? Can't seem to find it in the regs. It's all bluefin, tuna, and dorado related. They've got to have it in
I
there.
think it's 5.
Is it or 10?
But last time I remember,
I think
it
it's
was 5.
10. Is it 5?
They upped it then. I think.
I don't. Oh no, they wouldn't have upped it.
Yeah.
If it was down
I'm
to 5.
pretty sure we'll have to check, but I think it's 5. It
Yeah,
used to
somebody
be
out there
10,
can
but
Google that and find
all
out.
I know is I'm done with bringing more than enough home. And I did that. Pete and I told you about that one trip we made.
Well, tell the story
that-
again because
that
people.
that cured me of doing that.
Yeah.
I was always so competitive. I just do not like to be beat with anything, and Pete's very competitive too. And you have no idea until you see Pete fish. He's possessed too. So he and I go down to San Diego. We're in my Sequoia, and we're fishing with Harlan on the Galilean. And in the morning, I think I went 9 for 9 on jigging a bait stop, jigging a bait stop. I went
Yeah.
9 for 9 in the morning. I'm thinking, God, this is great. It's unbelievable. I got 9 fish, and I haven't lost one. It was 9 for 9.
Yeah.
And then we go into a stop for hours, and it was stupid. It was flat out stupid. And this is when there was no limit, okay, on albies. So stupid me, not realizing how many I have, it's just going down in the fish hole. I had no idea how many we had. And it got so bad that we made a bet. He said, all right, stop. Everybody take $20, put it out here. And everybody did. Okay, anybody that could cast out a jig and wind it back in without an albie, you win the jackpot. Nobody wanted. Everybody, so I'm going, well, how stupid is that?
Wow.
We're casting way out there and hooking these albies, and we got to wind it all the way back. So I'm messing around. I take the jig, and I'm bouncing it like this, right under the boat, because we're watching fish flashing under the boat.
Yeah.
And so I drop it down. I drop it down. It's just going below the boat. This is on the Galilean, and I used to fish that boat even in high school when it was the champ.
Wow.
Right? And I hang a fish, and it's a good fish, but I have my drag locked, and they stick it. I think Harlan stuck it right away. That was a jackpot fish.
Oh, no.
41 pounds.
That's a nice albie.
We get back to the car. We couldn't put them all in the ice chest. I had to take tarps, drape the tarps up like that.
Yeah.
And when Pete and I got home, we had to give away. I mean, we spent more time giving away fish and babysitting fish, blowing ice into it. I says, never again. And that cured me of, I think that was the last time I did a full-on fish kill where I was nuts. I said, now, no mas.
That's so funny,
No mas.
man.
And Pete is so competitive, neither of us stopped. That's what drove me.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't stop,
And Danny's talking about Pete Demers, who's the longtime trainer for the Los Angeles Kings. In fact, 25 years, right?
Yeah,
Pete had there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
I told you that story about Pete, and I haven't told him, but I got to tell him someday. Should I tell the audience?
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Pete would love it.
But Pete Demers was the trainer for the LA Kings, and my brother and I went to the Culver City ice rink way back. Probably this is in the 70s, late 70s. And we went to watch we were Kings fans, man.
Yeah.
And we went to watch the guys practice. And when they're coming off the ice, it was him and I. We were standing there. And like Don Kozak comes out the ice. He goes, hey, here, kid. Hands us a stick. Marcel Dion comes up. Here you go, kid. We've got like 14 sticks. NHL hockey player sticks. And we're like, yeah, man, this is the greatest. And here comes Pete Demers. And he goes, hey, what's going on here? And we're like, what are you talking about? And he goes, where'd you get all those sticks? And I'm like, we didn't the guys gave them to us. And he's well, they don't have to wrap the damn things. So he took half of them back. Well, I kept the Marcel Dion stick and a couple of, it was so funny, man.
Oh,
I mean,
my God.
I get it too. I mean, he's the one wrapping the things. And,
Oh, my God.
That was funny.
Well,
hey, I did that. I was over at the South Bay Anglers Club last night.
Yeah.
Ran into a guy, Ray Millman, a good friend of mine, and we were reminiscing about Albacore. And one of the stories was we took a 16-footer out of Point Loma and went down almost to Ensenada. And we hammered on the Albacore down there. I think we had 20 fish.
16-footer?
Yeah, 16-footer, man. That's not too smart, is it? And then also we had another memory. What was the other one? I can't. Oh, remember the big Albacore out here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
1984.
So we were going to go, the day we were going to go, his wife said, no, my parents are coming and, we got this big dinner plate. He goes, wait, this is a world-class bite. And she looks at him and says, what could one day possibly mean? What, so, we don't go that day. We go the next day. It shut off. There was no fish. and it
Oh, my
was
God.
the last day of that bite.
Phil,
So Ray's wife screwed us up there.
that was such an epic bite.
Oh my
My
God.
galley gal,
I'm coming over here to fix something on
my
the
galley
computer.
girl, Fran Kennedy, who also had a captain's license on he was one of the cooks that
Yeah.
actually had a captain's license too. So Fran wanted to go. She lived down in Newport. So I called Russ and I put her on the first string with Russ Iser.
Yeah.
You know, and all summer long I was telling Fran, she'd always throw a little split shot. I said, Fran, get the throwing a fly line bait without a sinker, you know. And so she goes out with Russ. And, you know, at that time, Russ put on one of the scanning sonars like we had through the Westmark.
Yeah.
He and Donnie Brackman put them on the same time. Brockman, yeah. And so anyway, she goes out, hooks a big fish, lands it. It's still a standing world record on 20,
Really?
20-pound line, 75-pound albacore. And she goes,
75.
Danny, I got him with a split shot. I go, now what could I say? What do I know? You know, what I know. But it's still a standing record
That's
for
one.
women's world
What's your
record.
biggest albacore?
I think it's in the 60s.
That's bigger than
we
I
got a
thought.
few, but yeah, but no, I mean that one dwarfed mine. I mean it was unbelievable. But
Yeah.
I remember going up to Morro Bay and having some really good days up there.
Yeah,
too,
they're
you know.
bitchin'
Yeah.
fish, man. They are so much fun. All right, let's see. We've got Turbo T2 saying he's answering your question about the sea biscuit. Danny, yes, I was 20 in 95 and would ditch classes to go out on 3/4 day trips Tuesdays. A man after our own spirit.
Yep.
Turbo T2, good job, man. Brandon wants to ask you, is it difficult, Danny, on flinging that chovy out in the corner, or do you think us regular anglers can get the hang of it after a few tries?
Go in your front yard on the lawn if you have a lawn. Take a clothespin, and throw it with 20 pounds. Okay, and that'll somewhat simulate it. The clothespin might be just a hair heavier, but you get used to that. Wet your line, and that's why I said too. The other thing is the reels that we have now. They're smaller, they cast further, and they have more drag. So it's a win-win deal with these smaller reels that we have. The casting for throwing anchovies is much better than what we had. I mean, at the time, probably the best casting back in those days, the best casting reel would have been a 146 squitter, a narrow squitter, and you know with a newel spool, and that was the trick outfit. The thing is, if you look at the drag systems and the gearing on them, that was like a 3-to-1, 3.5-to-1, I think it was. You know, where Jigmaster was 4-to-1. You know, but the gearing now on these new reels, they're stronger, they're more powerful. So it's a win-win deal with the new reel, and they're not, you know, it'll be worth it, trust me. But I would invest in a smaller 20-pound reel that gives you that capability of fly lining the trophy further, having more drag. It's just, you know, it's just one of those specialty reels that you need to have in your arsenal.
Fantastic weather this Sunday when the California will be running out of Ventura Harbor. Sport fishing, kids fish free. You should take a kid fishing. It's good for their heart and soul. Gets them away from the phone. Gets them out to the great outdoors. Don't forget to hit that like button. And right next to the like button, you see that share button? Man, that would be awesome if you shared this live show with a friend so they could join us here. Because we've already got an hour into the show, over an hour.
Holy
and I kind of
smokes.
promised the folks up front that we wouldn't go much longer. But we'll keep going while we have
Oh, they know
questions
us better
here.
than that. Huh? They know us windbags better than that.
I know, they
But as
get-
long as the folks keep calling,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna give it back to you.
You're darn right. Rick Slater, how do you feel about sharing for boat limits? I caught 9 white sea bass before 3 a.m. and shared with my pescadores. Was that legal? Is that legal to do that?
Well, you know what? I'm sure there's guys that don't have it, you know, don't have their limits, and yeah, I'm sure that's fine. I mean, you know,
I think it's the boat, right?
It's the boat. Yeah, it's boat limits is what
Yeah.
they're talking about.
I'll tell you right now, when I was a kid, I mean, I was in this wide open albacore bite, my brother and I, our first albacore bite, and the drag on, we had spinning reels, and the bail had like some abrasive thing, so when the fish would pull line against drag, it would break every time. And we were like almost in tears. And the deckhand walked up to my brother and I on the way in and said, here's an albacore kid, here's an albacore kid. So it made us so happy because we could take a fish home.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, what Rick did, I mean,
Absolutely.
there's got to be a lot of grateful people.
I believed in that. I always believed in that.
Yeah. Kim Smith is citing where the regulation is about albacore, I think. But Kim, what is it? Is it 5 fish, 10 fish? We would love to know. And Brandon thanks her. Albert Ponce, sharing is caring. Yeah, sharing fish is caring, right?
Absolutely.
And sharing this podcast is caring also. Share it with a friend. Hit that like button. Good stuff. Tony Gonzalez, you're good. Keep going, he said.
All right.
Yeah, he's up front
We're
there.
rocking.
And let's thank Tony and Janelle because they do hang here late for us.
I know that we're blessed having them around.
Yeah,
They're
man,
awesome.
they're the best. Yeah. And
You
plus,
can't beat
you know, Tony comes in here and, you know, gives me the middle finger every once in a while.
That's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Means
trying
you're
to give
number
me-
one. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, Brandon says, thanks for all the info. Danny, last question for me. It doesn't have to be your last question, Brandon. You're allowed to ask. Yeah, make it your last question. I'm just kidding. Has there ever been a season, Danny, where albacore have eaten the sardine? Oh, heck yeah. Or are we just screwed without anchovy on the boat? No, they'll eat beans.
No, they'll eat what's available. You know, the problem is their stomach cavity is way smaller than people think, too. So, I mean, for them to capacity out on food, they'll fill up a lot quicker. And that's why I was telling you, even when we commercial fished, we didn't throw brails. We threw ones on the corner, and ones on the corner would hold a whole school, you know. And if we're commercial fishing, and if a guy pulled on a lift boat, pulled one out here, I'd hit that spot where he just lifted it out and then go back to the corner. Then, you know, he pulled one out on this spot, you'd hit that spot, put one on the corner. But we never overfed them. Albacore, you don't do that, yeah. Tuna, it's a lot different. Tuna, you feed them.
Bluefin, yellowfin.
Bluefin, yellowfin, they gorge.
Yeah.
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 But not albacore. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Eddie McCune giving me that lesson, who used to run the Pacific Queen back in the day. And I, as a young man, wanted to just braille it. You know, I want to see the ocean explode.
Yeah.
He's like, kid, man, slow down there.
Yep.
You do not want to throw bait that way.
Even with commercial fish, like I said, we threw the ones. You know.
Here's
filled in the
Tony.
spots.
He's coming in here.
There he goes.
What are you going to do?
Hey, Tony.
Oh, he's throwing us out. Hey, Tony's in here throwing us out, everybody. So I thought you were coming to give me a back massage. You know, my shoulders are sore.
That's why I'm here.
Scott Buchert's not here. You know?
Oh, my God.
Tony Gonzalez is a great guy. You should go get in front of the camera so you can say hello to
Yeah.
everybody at least for 1 second.
Come on.
You don't want to be seen with. Yeah, I thought it was me you don't want to be seen with.
Come on.
All right, Tony Gonzalez.
Hey.
We love him.
He's the reason we're here, folks.
Thank you, Tony. All right, Tony's part of our studio audience right now. Turbo T2 just threw us a $5 bill. Turbo, we appreciate that
awesome.
very much. And he says this is representing the 805 and in honor of the Seabiscuit and the great childhood memories.
That was
Great
a-
knowledge share. Thank you, Danny and Phil. Turbo, thank you, man.
Yeah, that was
You
a
touched a
special
nerve
year.
with him.
That was a special year in '95.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm all for academic success with kids. I'm all for kids working hard in school. But man, I used to take my kids fishing on school days. And those were really special days, man. We're ditching school and going fishing, boys. No, it wasn't every week. But every once in a while we did that. You know, what the heck. Albert Ponce says, hey, Phil, give Danny my number. I want to follow up on our last conversation. Or even better, set up breakfast and I'll be there. My treat. Hey, I'm in anytime
we'll set
anybody
one
wants
up.
to treat. Yeah, we'll do that. Danny, I'll talk to you at the end of the show, and then I'll talk to Albert. And
Sounds good.
what are you doing tomorrow morning? All right, Dan Smith. Albacore, south of Point Conception. The special, here we go. The special limit for albacore is 10, which may be taken or possessed in addition to the overall general daily bag limit of 20 fish,
Oh.
Kim said.
So it's up because I
Yes,
can remember last
Albacore,
time we
man.
were- Wow.
It used to be. You know what the limit used to? Well, you know what it used to be. No limit,
There
man.
was no limit. Yeah, but I thought it got reduced to 5 for a while.
Maybe. I've been out of the country for a while,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know what happened. during
Okay,
that
well
time.
10's cool.
Right before I got
But even that's a lot of fish.
That's a ton
Even
of
that's
fish.
a lot of fish, guys.
But that's cool, man. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go whale on those things,
There
Tony.
you go.
Right?
Yeah, get that lip
That'll
roll.
keep everybody coming on the boats, folks.
All right, let's see. Brandon's a liar. Remember he said last question? And he's back again. Okay. I always wondered why the captain would yell at the deckhand on the tank, Danny, for chumming too much. Seen it many times. So it's only ones and twos. Hey,
Ones.
Tony, we love
Ones.
you, man. Look at that. Man.
Yeah, not even ones and twos, ones.
Yeah.
Just steady ones, And like I said, a lot of it has to do with the drift rate on the boat. Every boat has a different idiosyncrasy the way it drifts. Like I said, the Drake craft walked on us, so as you're putting it on the corner, it's drifting away. Ditmars had a different drift rate. So, a lot of times with the Ditmars, I know like on my brother's boat, like on the Cherokee, we throw them almost straight back to get those fish to come across the corner.
Yeah.
So it's different. Every boat's got a little different idiosyncrasy with the way it drifts, and you have to fish it accordingly. But you want to pull those fish across the corner if you can, that hot corner.
So, for an angler who's listening and they're new to albacore fishing, you're watching the deckhand throw that bait in the corner. Is that where you want to make your cast?
Yeah, and what
Right
happens
there,
is you
because-
cast in, and you're going to rotate around into the wind, and you go up swell, right?
And those fish are kind of
Right.
trained to boil on when that guy throws a bait. There's a fish boiling.
And
on
here's
it.
another thing, like with the Ditmars and a lot of those, a lot of the bigger boats, they drift backwards. So what you're going to do is after that stop, after you're in a little bit, go to the bow. Run up to the bow and fire one right off the pointy end.
I love it.
Because that bait will follow the keel up, come out, and you'll see these things doing this under the bow. And so a lot of times you just walk up there and and it's bingo.
Man, this turned into a whole albacore thing tonight. We didn't even plan that, did we?
No, but hey, we're getting them ready.
It goes. Yeah, exactly.
But
What are the-
but the chumming part, whether it's albacore or tuna, you really it means it's all dependent on the drift rate and the boat.
Yeah.
Not the style of the boat, but the make of the boat.
Yes.
Because they'll have different idiosyncrasies.
And you can ask a crew member too,
Oh yeah,
right?
the crew
How's
will
the
tell
boat
you
drift?
how do you drift? Yeah, where do you fire? Is the hot spot the corner? Is it the middle of the stern? Is it the bow?
I mean,
They'll tell you. They know.
I always think that's good advice when you walk on a boat to make friends with a crew member.
Absolutely, and they know that's what it's for too. It's going to help them. You make their, they want fish on the boat, just as bad as we do.
I don't know if I'm busting this guy Scott Grant or not, but he was on our last charter. He's a super good guy.
Uh-huh.
He walks over to the deckhand. I don't even know if he knew I was watching, and he goes, "Could you show me how to tie the dropper loop that we need to catch white sea bass?" So the guy's tying it. He hands him $40, and the guy goes, "No, that's not necessary. You can get us at the end." He goes, "Well, I'll get you at the end again too." And he had a friend for life right there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, these kids are all working. We all work for them. I mean, we pull it, but it will elevate it. I mean, we're just very thankful for that we have people like that. That's
Right,
great.
Tony?
Brandon's a good tipper.
Yeah,
Brandon's a great tipper.
He's a good tipper. He takes care of everybody. When he goes
that's
out
right.
there.
That's right.
He contacts me all the time and says, "I just purchased 10 Mad Max. I know you can use it for your fundraising. Here, come by and pick them up."
Wow,
Super
That's
good
amazing.
guy. Yeah, and he's a good
Yeah.
sport about the
Yeah.
corpse and all the joking we do with him. So, and that's really cool stuff. But he's
That's
a
part of being
very
a fisherman,
giving.
having that thicker skin too.
Yeah,
Because
he's
you got to
just-
know we love you. If we're digging into you, we love you.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right, north of Point Conception, those dirty rats. Dan Smith says the special limit for albacore is 25. I'm going north of Conception, man, with a big old rock. I'm gonna jack those a jack bull if
Now
that.
don't do that, Phil. I just got through telling you a story
Yeah, I
about
know.
Pete and I. I don't
I know.
ever want to get to that point again. I'm never taking home that many fish anymore.
All right, he says 25, which may be taken or possessed in addition to the overall general bag limit of 20 fish. Page 39, section 2838. Daniel Leanos 3. 3 what? Daniel? I'm lost. I'm sorry. I'm old, so I've lost that. 540 Slinger. That's Jeff Yeomans. Danny, could you share your preferred method for fishing white sea bass? Dropper loop lead head or glow in the dark jig? What do you like?
I actually use glow-in-the-dark eggs,
Oh yeah.
sliding eggs. And I use a hook that I don't know if you guys even know about. It's called a true turn. Have you ever seen a true turn hook? It came out of freshwater fishing, but they built a saltwater true turn, and it's got a cam in it. It's a long shank. They run about that long, so it's perfect for threading a squid on, a big squid. 'Cause
Yeah.
you increase your hook to bait ratio with a hook that's long. I have that, you know, fluorescent egg here, you know. And it's very simple.
Who makes that hook?
True Turn is
Oh,
the name of the
okay.
company. It's a company out of Texas.
Okay.
It's heavy duty.
Yeah.
You get them in like a 4/0, 5/0. But man, I mean, the hook to bait ratio is tremendous.
Really?
That's one of my favorite sea bass.
I was going to ask you
And
what
even
size,
calicos,
and you
yeah.
say 4050?
4050s, yeah.
Do you go any bigger than that ever?
No, that was
about-
that was great, especially for the bigger sea bass and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it worked. Even that 4/0, 5/0 was good for even calicos.
Yeah.
Too. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. Great
Yep.
question as always. And thank you for your service. Don't forget to hit that like button and share this live stream with a friend that can come on and ask a question right now. Brandon, do you ever have issues with the slide, Danny? How do I not tangle anyone fishing the slide for albacore with an anchovy? Just go to the bow? Question mark. What's your advice about not getting tangled in the slide area?
You know, that's the problem. Everybody going in on a slide, one guy gets hooked, and if it wraps, it gets a lot of people. I will always watch and wait, and you can tell. You know, if the kids, if you got good guys on the tank, and I mean, if the school wants to cooperate, watch the boils in the water. If they start coming up the line fast, don't put it in right away. They're going to come to the boat. So you watch the boils. And that's always a good idea, regardless if it's albacore or tuna fishing. You watch them; they start moving to the corner. They move to the corner. If everybody's out there, and those fish come to the corner, you know your captain is going to tell your crew he wants it on the spot. So it's going to come as tight to the boat as it can. So why would you cast out? Why would you want to be 50 yards back when you could hook it right 10, 15 feet away or 20 feet away? That much less to wind in. Plus, when everybody's way out there, you're not going to tangle them. Your line's in a totally different position. So your odds of landing that fish are going to be a lot better, and you're closer to the boat. So you might get them to the boat quicker anyway. So it's a win-win deal there. It's wait and watch. I mean, if it's a scratch bite, I could see where you might want to go in early. But, if those fish are coming to the boat, just wait. Let those fish come to the boat. And if you watch, it's reading, I call it reading the water, and it's watching the boils. You could tell. You could tell when that thing's going to go off too.
And you can kind of tell too when you get like a quadruple jig strike, like
Yeah.
each
If
one
it's-
starts going off. You're
if
going,
it
oh man, this is
completely
going to be a
chews-
good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And that's why you want them. See, that's why we want those fish on 80-pound on the jigs anyway, because you want them to the boat fast. You want those things to get into proximity fast. You want to grind on them. And I think now with the reels now, the reels that you're fishing with 80-pound now in 2 speeds, as opposed to back in our day, it was you had a 6/0, and that drag's about that big. So it's not producing anything like the new reels will. And so your capacity to keep those fish to the boat tighter are much greater now, and that's what's going to add to your success.
All right, great stuff. Just a little fishing update to give Danny a breather for a second before we go back to more questions. And that is that the Bluefin did not, but there were the haves and have-nots last night out of San Diego. The Pacific Queen was one of the halves. He railed them last night. Great bite on the 50 to 180-pound Bluefin tuna. He limited out. There was a couple other guys that had good scores, like the Polaris Spring. There were some guys that missed on the fish. The Kelpatty yellowtail fishing down that way has been a little more hit and miss also. And part of that is this wind, Danny. It's hard to glass kelps, fine kelps, when it's blowing 15 to 20. We're going to have a little bit more of that wind, and then we're going to go into Saturday's going to get good. It might blow up depending upon where you find yourself on Saturday afternoon. And then after that, we go into some nice weather with like 6, 7, 8 knots of wind. That should be really good. And don't forget, we've been sitting on a powder keg with regard to sea bass and more halibut. That stuff is up at the Channel Islands. It's at our local islands, Clemente, Catalina, Santa Barbara, Nicholas. I'm looking for that to rebound also because really I think the reason why we haven't been catching that is all of this wind. That gets out of here pretty soon. And don't forget, the morning briefing tomorrow morning, I'll be on the air early. As always, I'll be talking to the boys that are fishing tuna when I get off the air here with Danny. On the way home, I'll get doped up on that, and then I get up early and start making some calls and trying to talk to the boys about that. Chris Pro from Arizona is watching. He's going on our third trip out of Point Loma on the El Capitan overnight, August the 4th. Always watch your shows. Thank you for all the great information that you share to make our trips more enjoyable. Chris,
Awesome.
we can't thank him enough, right, for
Yeah, and
taking the time to
Alan
to
still
say that.
runs the El Cap, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, say hi to Alan for me.
Alan
too.
Fay, right?
Yep.
I haven't seen
Known
him for
Alan
a while. He's
years
a
and
great
years and
operator,
years.
isn't he?
Yeah, I've known Alan forever. Yeah.
Him and Joe Chait were real
Yeah,
tight,
yeah,
as I
yeah.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Alan, Alan, I can remember him. He ran the El Dorado for Eddie Deal, even back in the old days when
Yeah.
he was taking up to Morro Bay. But
Yeah.
then, he had the Prano. I mean, Alan's been around forever.
Yeah, he's no spring chicken, is he?
No, but he's knowledgeable.
Yeah,
Very knowledgeable.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, that comes with age, doesn't it?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can talk about some screw ups I've had.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you for making that comment. Really appreciate it. Sal Garcia, my second favorite fishing show. Just playing, guys. Yeah, I was ready to break into tears, Sal. Love all the info. Going on the pursuit for a full day in a couple of weeks. Any hope on some surface action? Heard they caught some bonito recently. I think so. Sal, I think it's all up to what this weather does. If we have this sustained wind, if it keeps blowing, we're going to have cold water and probably not. But like I said, we're going to go into some really nice weather here after Saturday. And, man, I get a little solar warming maybe. There's been bonito around there. They caught a yellow on the pursuit the other day.
Yeah.
And those guys last year, they had like about a week straight of some incredible white sea bass fishing on the pursuit.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, Sal, go ahead.
No, I mean, don't ever overlook stuff like bonito fishing. I got to tell you something. Before we tuned up and went to San Diego, we'd be fishing Clemente and Catalina a lot. And, when you fly landing a chovy for bonita, I think it's more difficult to hook them on, to hook a bonita than it is an albacore, to be honest with you. And so you get your practice in, just practice your fly lining. When you get that down, your bait goes down and away. It's slam dunk. If it's an albie or a tuna, you just, but don't snafu and turn your nose up at bonito fishing, because that's great practice, let me tell you.
Absolutely. And the other thing, Danny, is, and Sal for that matter, the way they take care of the fish on sport boats nowadays, sashimi
And they
bonita
bleed
is
'em out?
pretty darn good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very delicate. Yeah, it's very good.
You remember the days when
Oh,
the
yes.
galley cook would take a bonita and go in and cook it and then walk around and say, taste this.
Yeah.
And people would go, oh my God, that's good.
Yeah.
What is that? Chicken?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
bonita.
Well, it
And they're
didn't sit in a hot gunny sack all day.
Yeah, right.
But the care and the processing now is much, much greater now than ever. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. If it's taken care of, it's excellent.
Sal, have a great trip, man. Thanks for watching your second favorite show tonight. Turbo T2. True Turn made great hooks for Texas rigging plastic worms. Caught some giants at Castaic Lagoon, slow dragging 10-inch worms.
Oh yeah, that's that hook, and the version we had was their cadmium coated one for the ocean. That could have been the ones you're using, but they're great hooks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Turbo. Brandon, who was it? I think it was Captain Norm on the Shogun. Norm Kagawa he's talking about.
Yep.
He used jack pole, these darn albacore. Do you remember Norm on the Shogun? And did you ever fish with him, Danny, and Phil? So
I went to junior high and high school with Norm.
you did?
Yeah, and his
Oh,
older
wow.
brother Dave. Dave
Yeah,
was older.
I knew both those guys
But
real
yeah,
well.
we had and like Bobby Yoshihiro. So of course he was a kid, but he also went to school there. And
That's crazy.
they had a lot of guys. Yeah.
So
that did.
I decked with Norm on the Shogun. Not Shogun, on the Searcher.
Yeah,
Him and
yeah,
Leroy.
Oh yeah,
Were the two
I
guys
still
that-
talk to Leroy almost
I
every
do
morning.
too.
Yeah.
Every morning he says,
Yeah.
Buenos dias, hermano.
Yes, and of course,
I love
all
Leroy.
of us love Scotty so much.
Yes,
there wasn't
yes.
anybody any greater than
No,
Scotty. She was
no.
such a doll.
She'd
Yeah.
come down to the boat
Yeah.
all the time
Yeah.
on the Searcher.
Yeah.
But yeah, Norm and Leroy. Norm taught me a lot, Brandon. He was a mentor of mine and took care of my brother and I. Were young, man. We were like 16,
Yeah,
17.
yeah, yeah.
And they took us under their wing. and taught us how to fish albacore, and we had a lot of good days. Frank LaPreste was running the boat in those days. Al Rich would take over from him. I don't know if you remember Al Rich, but
Yeah, I remember him.
yeah.
I remember him. Yeah.
Al
yeah,
Rich
yeah.
and shoot, there was a whole bunch of other guys like Dean. I can't remember. There's
Dean
a whole,
Adams?
Yeah, Dean Adams was a deckhand on there. A bunch of those
Sure, we knew
guys
those
who went
guys.
on to have
Oh
careers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dean was running the Cortez. Well, Dean's been around a long time. He's
Yeah.
great fisherman too.
Oh my God, yes.
They all are. Yeah.
Rick Slater, tuna shuffle, question mark, death spiral, question mark, help the gaffer. If I think Rick might be talking about laying your fish out maybe properly because man, you got to help, you got to do that.
Okay, so here, people, here's the thing. When you're laying a fish out, you want to keep more pressure on that fish because you got them right there at gaff. You want less pressure? This is what you do. High stick. Okay? You have no control. You got 1/10 of the pressure up here. Then if you have it pointed at the fish, wind down tight and keep it down low here. You're going to control the fish a lot more. You have a better opportunity of laying that fish out for your crew member. Okay? You get it up high, you drop down to 10% of the pressure you have here than you do down here. So your odds of landing the fish are less having it up here. So when you learn how to control it by keeping more pressure on it, and you'll keep their head coming up. And that way, when you see the fish, as long as you're getting that half a stroke at a time, and if that head is planing up, folks, and it's doing this, it's going to come right to the boat every time it kicks its tail. But if you're up and down, when you have less pressure up here, and you get a swell, if it gets its head down a little bit and takes a kick, he's going to take line on you. So it's about timing. So it's more concentrating and focusing on watching how that fish is planing through the water and keeping your short stroke. You're just being on top of it. And a lot of times it may not even need the stroke. If you're keeping more pressure by keeping the rod down low here, all you got to do is turn the handle with these new reels, folks, nowadays. And it'll keep that thing planing up. And that turning of the handle will just, every time that tail kicks, where's this going to kick if its head's pointed up? It's kicking at you. So it's just a matter of you keeping up with that stroke. With that kick.
Good stuff, Rick Slater. That is excellent, excellent stuff. You know, Danny, I do a show with Sam, over at Island Fishing Town. People are always sending us food. Why don't they send you and I food on this night?
I think it might be,
Tony,
is it the profile?
I know. I just went
Gail's
and
probably
joined the gym this morning. So, yeah, I mean, come on, you guys. Maybe next week we can take care of Tony and Janelle at least. A way of thanking them for staying late here. Hey, I want to tell you about real quick here. We have a surf fishing tournament coming up. Actually, it's the Redondo Rod and Gun Club, and that's going to be May 20th and 21st. All you have to do is come to 22nd Street Landing or Island Fishing Tackle or Big Fish Bait and Tackle or the Redondo Rod and Gun Club either Saturday or Sunday. $20, you're in. And you'll get all the details about what you have to do. They'll give you a ruler and some other stuff where you take photos of your fish and send them in. And, it's more about bragging rights, but there's a lot of great prizes too, including fishing trips and fishing rods and so much more. And then a big banquet. Danny will be there. I'm speaking for you. On Sunday, we're going to be over at the Redondo Rod and Gun Club. Baja-style fish tacos. All the prizes will be given out. More raffles. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you want more details on that, go to www.redondorodandgunclub.com, and we'll see you there. That should be good. But you can sign up right here at 22nd Street Landing on May 20th and 21st. Worm King Swim Baits. That's our buddy Fish.
Hey, Fish. What's
He
up, buddy?
is at home sick, poor
Oh,
baby.
no. Oh, no.
But he'll be out on the surf this weekend. You know what he's been
That'll
doing?
cure you.
He's been jumping on the Catalina Flyer, going to Catalina and surf fishing. I got to go. Man, and then he's sending me these photos. He's catching these big sheep's head, calico
I saw
bass.
those pictures.
Yeah, he's surf fishing over there.
That's where he's
It's
getting
a great
those?
idea, really, right?
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah. What a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Fish, you got to get better, man. And Fish sends us $10. He said he's not
You're the
sending.
man, Fish.
He said he's not sending us food, but go get a pizza, man. Hey, Fish, sincerely, we hope you're feeling better.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Feel
that's
up, bud.
We got to go. I'll go shoot a. Hey, would you like to go do that with him sometime?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
me
sounds
too.
great, man.
Go shoot a video and
Sure.
let's do it. That
How
sounds
many
like.
times have you Never even thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, Fish is a visionary, man. He's
You know, a lot of
brilliant
those rock
guy.
areas, given we stay out of the protected reserve.
Right, exactly.
But I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of spots we can nail calicos and stuff from
Oh my
with
God.
this baits.
How
yeah.
much fun is that?
Oh, wow. That'd be awesome.
I mean, that's a whole different kind of surf fishing because you're catching corvina and
Absolutely.
barred perch and halibut maybe.
Well, you're fishing pristine blue water, too, for the
Yeah,
most
you
part.
probably could. You probably could get a forky in there at some point.
You probably
Bonita
could.
or a yellow.
Absolutely.
Man,
Absolutely.
I'm all over this
Yeah,
now, man.
yeah.
This sounds like fun.
That's a neat deal.
I showed you the photos, and you were laughing your butt off. Juan Cook, San Quintin Sport Fishing, has brought a new idea to knife fishing, right? He's taking butter knives, putting assist hooks on them, and you saw it,
The
Danny.
knife jig.
He was smearing the yellows. You can see that in a short that I
God.
put up, or it's on today's morning briefing. If you want to see Juan Cook actually using butter knives, putting hooks on them, dropping them down, and catching great big yellows, man, it's pretty funny stuff. All right, Brandon's back. Danny, are we fishing circle hooks for the albacore, or is it a J hook? Sorry for all the questions. I'm going to pick your mind while we have you available. Brandon, that's why we're here, man.
You want a J hook. You want a J hook. Circle hooks, you know, number one, they're a little more difficult to get. I mean, to bait, if you're going to lower collar them and everything too. But the other thing is, I want to swing and get that head coming at me right away.
Yeah.
You know,
And keep turning the
and
handle.
It's just the sake of ease. When I'm holding my bait and cradling my bait, it's just much easier for me personally to just take it, and pop it under the lower collar, very gently, and firing it out and getting bit. You know, I'd have to work at with the angle and everything with the circle hook more, and then, you're going to have to let it run, put it in gear, and let it tighten up. I'm swinging. That's why I'm using a J hook. When I swing, I want that head to start to come at me a little bit, and I'm going to put the screws to it so I can see if I can get a quick one.
Yeah, right. Just don't let it get its head
Yeah,
and
never get its
have a
head,
deckhand ready with a
Get
gaff,
hot-
right?
Exactly. Exactly.
You've had that situation where you get them fast and the deckhand's not aware, and then you're screwed. You finally, it gets you.
Then you got to fight it.
I know, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Daniel Leanos, I just got home, guys. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Dan. Not Phil, just Dan. And he says, LOL.
Oh, that's brutal.
I love it, Daniel. Sense of humor. Like, oh, you're not
Oh,
kidding.
geez.
Oh, you're not kidding. No. Hey, thanks, Daniel. Brandon, you think those Marines fish off the beach at San Clemente Island, Danny? That has to be fun. I bet that island is loaded with calico bass off the rocks and the beach. He wonders if
It
the
is.
soldiers over there are fishing.
It is. It is. That island is just phenomenal. That was my favorite island to fish, and generally, I would take my groups over there, given a choice between Catalina and Clemente,
Yeah.
and the options. To me, you got less traffic. Number one, that's probably the biggest thing, and you got different spots that produce different times of the year. Sometimes you're making a longer run where you go around to the cove, all the way around to the east end and the cove. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I told a story for weeks and weeks. We had a spot back there that it was a one stop and we're done. And then I'd come around the front and hopefully sit on the front and get some yellows at Persane or Little Flower or something. And I told the story once about taking Russ Iser and his group, and we made one stop in the back, and we were very amply limited, to say the least. And I said, we got to get out of here. We can't. So went around the front. We proceeded to get 50-something Jim Duntley, Russ Iser, all his whole gang, entourage was there. And we get 50-something yellows. And we're on our way home, I think 9 o'clock or something like that. And of course, we wanted to get home early so we didn't have to deal with fishing game when we got to the dock here at 22nd Street. And as I'm going by Catalina at like about 10:30 or so, Russ, he comes up in the well house and he goes, we really didn't have to go that far to make this catch. I says, Russ, get out of here. I could do that. He was my sea daddy. But yeah, no, he was. I loved Russ Iser.
I love it,
He
man.
would always find a way to just,
Yeah, kinda like Daniel just got me.
50-something yells. Yeah, okay, thanks, Russ.
Yeah, really.
We'll stay at Catalina next time.
Sam Roberts, hi guys, good to see you both. If they
Sam.
come, I will come out, Danny. And Phil, you need to give me a chat. I'll do that, Sam. You're on Facebook.
Awesome,
I'm
Sam.
assuming. Ted Hartley is waiting to hear from you. Take care, guys. Ted Hartley, I haven't seen for many, many years. I understand he's living in La Paz. I do need to give him a call. Ted
Wow, cool.
and Sam, I will do that. Please give him my phone number too, Sam. Have him give me a call. I never answer my phone, so text first. I'm always doing something. So, DJB, I'm going to try the sinker rig setup this weekend with the weight on the bottom and ringed hook above. Can I add hook to sinker, or is there a CFD? Is there a California Fish and Wildlife reg on the hook limit for bluefin tuna? 2 hooks, right?
Yeah,
Or-
I don't think that would even bother it at all.
on a
Yeah.
sinker rig, he's going to rig up like a torpedo, say like a Roy Rose kind of thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it sounds like.
I think
yeah,
you put
no,
as
no,
many
no.
hooks on as you
Yeah,
want.
you
right?
could choke them with hooks.
Yeah, yeah. Brandon, Phil, and Danny, favorite island to fish. I think Nicholas is a dump. My favorite island to fish was Guadalupe. Curious about yours. Oh, and San Martin was beautiful also. I love the sunset over it. What's your favorite island?
You know, I like Guadalupe because of the tuna and the big yellows.
Yeah,
and stuff
Loop
like
is
that,
good.
You know, Cedros was phenomenal because of the calico.
Yep.
But, you know, we can't fish it anymore.
I know.
You know, so I do miss that.
I do
you
too.
know. That was a great place to fish. But Guadalupe, and I guess we're going to probably, it sounds like we may be losing Guadalupe too.
We're done with Guadalupe.
Yeah,
It's gone. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean,
They shut that down. Even in the shark cage, guys, they all went out of business.
yeah. And so, you know, to me, it's a dumb move, but
Yeah. Well,
know,
they don't want to upset
so
the great
be it.
white sharks. They're such sensitive little creatures.
oh yeah. So I guess, you know, we got our share out of there. And, you know, it's a great place. I mean, it saved our behind one time. We did a 10-day goof off trip, and it started to blow, and we were caught in a storm. And I know that we were tucked behind there, and we stayed out of the blow, but it was howling. And I know Tommy Rother was on the Supreme, and he was out at the rocks. They had nowhere to hide. They took a beating.
Oh,
they
my
took
God.
a beating. Just had to hang on for dear life
Yeah.
out there, you know. But, you know, in that 10 days, I had a friend named Joe Miller on the boat who developed it in 10 days.
Oh, yeah.
Sat in the galley and developed his Miller knot.
Wow.
And so that was pretty epic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, heck
And
yeah.
we caught some fish. I remember getting in a bluefin and stuff, but it was tough fishing.
What a
It's
great
the weather,
memory.
yeah. But yeah, no.
Brandon, man, I have so many. Even Catalina Island. I love Cat. I've caught some big sea bass there. My biggest
yeah.
was 69 at Cat. I love Cedros. I love the Loop. Man, I mean, it's hard to pick one. It really, really is. I've had so much fun. All right, Turbo T2. Talking to Brandon, I spent time on San Nicolas Island in '94. Its waters were loaded with gigantic calicos. I love Nick. I don't know why Brandon doesn't like Nick, but I love that big sheep's head.
Oh,
that
Nick is
shallow
great.
water rockfish,
I-
big calicos, great halibut. There's sea bass. There's yellows.
I was planned, we got blown out, but the plan was to go over there and fish the white sea bass, you know, at Nick. And it was up toward the west end on the front side. You know what the problem was? The problem was you hook a sea bass and a big black sea bass would eat the
Oh,
white sea bass.
yeah, yeah.
I said, well, there's a big problem.
At Nick?
You know, at Nick.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of them there.
And we got blown out, but I was looking so forward to that, and I was bringing all the heavy gear just to play with the, you know, the big
Yeah.
blacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was cool. That's so fun.
Brandon says, "Oh, I bet Turbo Friedman Adventures went fishing there last year. It was biggest rockfish I've ever seen in my life, and the sheep's head were big." Daniel Leanos will always have a special love for you, Phil. Mom, born and raised in Bell Gardens, a long history of fishing the old pier. Daniel, same here, man. Really appreciate your support and love your sense of humor too. That's good stuff. Sam Roberts says, "We'll do DJB. If Danny says choke them with hooks, I'm in. Thanks again, Danny, for spending time with me at BHS." What is BHS?
Bart Hall Show.
No, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Daniel Leanos and the barge boat. Absolutely. The barge boats were great. Turbo T2. Boy, Tony came in here and told us we could stay longer. Now he's regretting it. Tony, you better get in here
Tony.
if you want us to leave. Turbo T2, Cedros Island is the Disneyland of Yellowtail. It's amazing. Headed back in July. Can't wait. Yeah, you can go down there and fly into the island
in,
now.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just
It's
phenomenal.
great fishing. You know, I almost can't blame Mexico for taking that back. It's just that we kind of miss out on one of those spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Tommy Rothery a second ago. Man, I went down there with my kids on a Father's Day, and oh my God, we just caught as many yellows as you wanted to. Your
It was
arms
a
were ready to
big
fall off.
And for some reason, those calicos had nasty teeth.
Yeah.
Not like our calicos.
You
these
mentioned
things
that.
would just chew you up.
What's that all about? Some
I don't know.
evolutionary thing down
I
there?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they were vicious. Yeah.
Joe Sirwald, evening, Danny and Phil. Do you only yell hookup for albacore, or do you yell it for everything instead of fresh one? I thought that was awesome the last time I heard you scream it. Yeah, kind of hookup is like
It's
the
more an
albacore,
albacore
jig
deal.
strike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get, I'll say, yeah, or something, I'll go, yeah, or something, I'm hanging tuna, whatever. But yeah, for some reason, albacore, I guess that was always, but you had to yell hookup loud because hookup would stop the boat.
Right,
folks.
right.
The word hookup, when you got jig bit, you yelled hookup, and that was the way you stopped the boat, all these years. And that's protocol. And that's why I think it sticks more with the albacore than anything else.
Well, Joe says, from now on, I'm going to start yelling every time I catch a fish at the top of my lungs, no matter where I'm at. Hook up. Love it. Sal Garcia, personal preference on aftermarket reel clamps. Need one for my Lexa 400. Also, some advice for braid size. Thinking of putting 30-pound mono fluoro top shot. Do you know anything about that? I don't know anything about those.
The Lexus 400?
Yeah, well, do you know anything about the aftermarket reel clamps?
No.
I don't
but
either.
I do fish. I do have a 400 I use.
Yeah.
And I've taken that down. I actually took that down to Guyana. I got a big, with Pete Demers, and got a big Arapaima with it.
Yeah.
So they're great reels.
What braid do you put on it?
On that one, we're fishing those fish for like 250, 280. They're huge. So I had it loaded with 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Richard says, what is the best way to prepare fresh dead squid for freezing, and how long will it last?
Well, it's better. I mean, if you have them live, to freeze them live, because you'll get that color. You'll find that the market squid's always going to be bleached out white. But if you have the natural color, that's what we used to do. Even after our trips, if we had an extra squid, we'd bag it ourselves and put it in our freezers. So you get the natural color more than anything.
Hit that like button, everybody. We would really appreciate it. Q Ball says he's giving us some applause. Brandon says, oh yeah, I yell hook up as loud as heck, Danny. Don't stand next to me if we go fishing. Just kidding. I yell so loud, I'll stop the boats next to us, thinking someone else said it. So yeah, man, it's part of the fun, right?
Well, I got to tell you, I had a crew member. He's such a classic, Kohei Kikuchi, one of my crew members, and he stopped 2 boats around us. Flat calm day, Kohei yelled hookup, and we watched 2 boats that are traveling out. They had several hundred yards away. We watched them both stop. Unbelievable.
That
Kohei,
is
we
funny.
used to call Kohei Vaboom. Yeah.
Danny, we got a window to say goodbye to everybody. No more questions. We've been going an hour and a half. Hey,
Jeez.
thank you everybody for joining us. Danny, you want to look in the camera there and tell everybody?
Hey,
because-
folks, thanks for tuning in. Start thinking of questions for next week, and we'll address them and knock you all out. And we'll have hopefully more news to come, and hopefully those fish keep coming to the east from where they're at.
Albert Ponce, another
See.
question here. We answer them all. We'll keep going here, but
Yeah.
now we don't have to say goodbye. We're just out of here. Is there a huge difference between a market-bought squid and fresh, dead, frozen? And if so, why? There is a big difference, isn't there?
Yeah, well, the stuff at the market a lot of time is not so
Bleached
much
and-
bleached out.
yeah.
It's going to be white, and that's for sales appeal. The stuff that we put down in our freezers out of our bait tanks were always the natural type color.
Yeah, right. So I think best is the fresh frozen.
Yeah.
Got in late. Have a great night. Daniel says, good night, everyone. Danny, one more time again. People love your show, and
Thanks for
it's
tuning
not
in,
only
folks.
because you're such
Yeah.
a nice guy, your expertise, your knowledge. I learned so much myself being here, Danny. I appreciate everything.
Not a problem. That's what it's here for, is sharing the info. And we got to credit our people out here. The people that are out there, they're willing to listen. I'm willing to give it up. Because our fishermen are, and being blessed enough to fish around the world and all over. Our fishermen here are a step way above anybody else, anywhere else in the country. The only fishermen that I've seen that are a little more technical and that get like we are, like the fishermen out of Japan, they get really, really crazy with it too. But I credit our guys with the innovations, a lot of the innovations. You look at some of the greatest innovations of all time. It came from Russ Iser, with Spectra. You name it. Look at the graphites. Look at all this. And, my God, we talked about it. Look at the Newell spool that changed everything. So I credit our guys here. So thank you guys for listening, and keep your thoughts coming. And these ideas also come off of you guys too. So keep them coming in your questions every week.
Joe says, good night, guys. Daniel says, good night. Cue ball, night, guys. Brandon, good night. Albert Ponce, thanks, guys, for a great show. Joe says, can you give us one hookup, Danny? He wants one. We'll come back to that in a minute and see if you're willing to do it. Dan Smith, thank you, guys. Great show. DJ B, good night. Heading out on a 3-day trip this weekend. Oh, man. I'm telling you, you're going to get them. The weather's going to be beautiful. I can't wait to hear your report. Sam Roberts, thanks. Phil gave Ted your number. Thank you so much for doing that, Sam. Jonathan Jones, hit that like button. It's not too late to hit and then share this because it'll be archived immediately. And Joe is telling DJB good luck also. Do you want to yell hook up?
Yeah.
Let it fly, man. Here we go.
What? Ain't that Pete and Marty? I never did that for them on their show, and that was their show.
Hey, that's right. That's exactly right. Hey, Kirk Halliday. Hey, Phil and Danny, I just heard the question from another viewer asking about the clamp for the die. Well, Alexa, I have one that I'm not using. Anyway, I can get in touch with him. Thanks, Kirk. That's great. Fresh one, blue skies. Everybody says thank you. Let's get out of here, Danny.
You got it.
Thanks, Danny.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
We're going to put it in gear and head for the barn.
All right. Hey, thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us on the Danny Kadota Show as Tony Gonzalez arrives to throw our butts out of here.